y'all, I'm Laura Richardson with Relevate, and we're bringing you another episode of I'm Moving to North Carolina, Now What? So one of the big features of North Carolina real estate is the due diligence period. And so something to think about is how does that affect your contract, so the thing that you're putting out to the seller and kind of a promise to purchase their home, and how does it affect once you're under contract in that process? So when is a good time to negotiate needed repairs? So it's an interesting question because you don't want to ask for too much up front, but you also don't want to ask for it maybe too late when the seller can tell you no. So there's a lot of ebbs and flows, a little bit of a gray area, and part of the process is understanding what you're asking for and in what way it should be asked. So keep in mind, the contract can be negotiated in any way that's going to best protect you and whomever you're buying the house with. If you notice during showings that there are some big ticket items that would be pretty impactful if they weren't taken care of, those are always things you kind of want to start out with and making sure that they get taken care of, because once you go under contract, North Carolina is an as-is purchase state. The seller is under no legal obligation to agree to any type of repairs, even big ones that you may find like structural mold, radon, things that could be pretty big if you were to live in this house in the future. So it's really important that you understand that those can be written into the contract and you can negotiate that up front. But when you ask for a lot of these big ticket items, you may not be able to renegotiate smaller things on the back end during that due diligence period when you actually get your inspections and other things. So just make sure that you're talking to your real estate agent about what the kind of ups and downs of making this decision with timing could be. What's the best case, worst case scenario? And also something that's important to consider is what is important to you. There have been projects that we've discovered during the showing process where some clients have thought they were a huge deal, and those are obviously the ones we worked into the contract in advance. Then there are other projects where maybe they're very handy DIY type people, or they have family members that are in that type of field that they know they could rely on them at a later date to fix. So they're not as worried about the financial ramifications of not asking the seller for this. So if it's a big cost, negotiate up front. Keep in mind, your real estate agent is not necessarily an inspector, but they do see a lot. So there's a lot of things they could point out to you, like, for example, this HVAC system is 20 years old. It's probably got limited life left. So that could be a big ticket item that you work into the contract. Another thing, like I was saying earlier, is that give and take, knowing that if you ask for a lot up front, you won't get as much later. However, on the reverse, just because you don't ask for it up front doesn't mean the seller is going to feel obligated to give it later. The other thing is using facts, photos, and reason. So when you're walking through a property and you're deciding if you want to include this in a contract, it's a good idea to take photos. Let's say, for example, you find water in the crawl space. Take a picture or a video of that. See if you can get some more background information from either the seller or the listing agent, and then determine what would be the appropriate next steps. So who is going to take care of this? How will it be paid for? And when will the work be done by? These are all things that, again, can be worked into the contract or agreed upon during your due diligence period. Another thing is including any type of documentation or inspection reports. We are not in a state that does pre-inspections, so just know that's something that's done after the fact. So the seller can only give you so much information up front, and that's done through our residential property disclosures. After the fact, you'll get your own third-party inspection, and you can kind of work through that information and share it with the other side to kind of further prove your point of why this is necessary. When something either violates code or it's not in good workmanship quality, and the inspector brings that to their attention, it's usually pretty reasonable to ask for it. Another thing is don't over embellish or lie. Yes, actually lie. And what I mean by that is sometimes people will put their requests through kind of a third-party site that will give quotes for labor and materials. Be really mindful that you're not getting an over embellished quote. So for example, 3 times what it would actually cost for a vendor in that field to fix. People pick up on that. They don't like being taken advantage of, and a seller's not going to respond well if you ask for the cost that's 3 times what it would actually cost a normal vendor to fix. And the other thing is don't make things up either. So if you didn't actually see water in the crawl space, don't tell them that you did, because people definitely work on a trust value in this contract period. It's really important that both parties are doing things on the up and up because it makes for a good contract on both sides. And then this one's probably the most important. Less emotion, more reason. People get really passionate about what's most important to them, and it's really interesting being in this industry, seeing how subjective that can be. There are things that maybe I personally would not put as the same value as maybe one of my clients. It doesn't mean it's not important to them. So it's really important that you don't put that same kind of standard on something that you're about to ask the seller for. So less emotion, more reason. So at the end of the day, y'all, just make sure that you're using rationale, documentation, less emotion, and that you're picking things up when you go to the showing as well as during your inspection period, and use your licensed agent to kind of go after this on your behalf and renegotiate the contract. I'm Laura Richardson with Relevate, and we'll see you on our next episode.